Professor Yagi shared the prize for his invention of metal organic frameworks, or MOFs, and their cousins, covalent organic frameworks, or COFs, which are highly porous materials that can capture and store liquids and gases in enormous amounts. They've already been applied in the storage of hydrogen gas for vehicles, for capturing carbon dioxide from the emissions of power plants, and for capturing drinkable water from ambient air. Professor Yagi is joining us from Brussels, where he is attending a conference. Also with us today is UC Berkeley Chancellor Rich Lyons and Anne Berenger, the interim dean of the UC Berkeley's College of Chemistry. Before we get to Professor Yagi, I just want to say after his remarks, you'll be able to ask questions, but until then, please mute yourselves. And Kara Mankey, who's joined us here from my office, will be monitoring the chat and raise hands to acknowledge your questions. And when she does, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Kara has also put a link in the chat to a Google folder that holds photos and eventually video of Professor Yagi, and also a link to the press release about the work of Professor Yagi. So before we get to the Nobel Prize winner, I want to turn this over to Chancellor Lyons for a few remarks. Chancellor Lyons.
Thank you, Bob, and thanks to all of you for being on this call. It's a wonderful moment for us all, truly. Good morning. I can't believe I get to do it again. As Bob mentioned, as twice in 1 week is particularly nice. So without further ado, on behalf of the entire UC Berkeley community, I want to congratulate and celebrate our friend and colleague, Omar Yagi, for winning this Nobel Prize in Chemistry, the most coveted and extraordinary recognition that a scientist can receive. This has been an extraordinary week for America's top public university and for American higher education. The work conducted by Omar and his two co-winners created a class of porous materials that hold enormous promise for carbon capture, water harvesting, hydrogen and other clean energy storage, for drug delivery, and catalyzing chemical reactions, among many other potential applications. Here we have a perfect example of how discoveries in fundamental scientific research and of how public investments in public higher education set the stage for the development of the new technologies, products, and services that support the prosperity, health, and well-being of people around the world. Omar's story is the quintessential American story, another unlocked American dream, if you will. Born in Amman, Jordan, he was urged by his father to come to the US to study, to take advantage of all the wonderful things this country offers, to come to a country where he could fulfill his potential and pursue those dreams. And so, as a teenager with a poor grasp of English, Omar settled alone in Troy, New York, and launched his academic career, supporting himself by bagging groceries, mopping floors, etc. Suffice it to say that leading up to the extraordinary recognition conferred by this Nobel Prize was boatloads of hard work, dedication, and creativity. Also, a willingness and ability to challenge the status quo. Also, an enormous amount of constructive collaboration and an unwavering zeal for discovery and exploration. These are the things Nobel Prizes are made of. And these are the very attributes that define UC Berkeley and make this university one of society's most valuable assets. Omar, on behalf of our university, I want to thank you for your accomplishments, your dedication to the pursuit of new knowledge, and your contributions to our Berkeley, a place where we embrace and advance exploration, innovation, individuality, economic mobility, entrepreneurship, and freedom, especially freedom of thought and expression. Today, I need to end with a celebratory correction. Yesterday at John Clark's press conference, I noted that the members of our football team recently lit up the online world with a new decal on their helmets, the number 59, the number of Berkeley affiliates who had won a Nobel Prize as of last Saturday. But I was wrong yesterday to put the new count at 60 because all three of the physics winners were affiliated in some way with our university. So thank you, Omar, for giving me another shot at this. Cal football players, today your helmets are even more out of date because 63 is the new 59. Besides, you know, being in California, it's not easy getting up so early every day. Fiat Lux and go Bears. Thank you. And now on to our Dean of the College of Chemistry, Ann Beranger. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you, Rich. Chancellor Lyons. As interim dean of the College of Chemistry, I cannot imagine a more joyous and wonderful occasion for our college and, of course, the entire Berkeley community as we congratulate and celebrate our latest Nobel laureate, Professor Omar Yaghi. You know, as our Chancellor Lyons just said, Professor Yaghi's discoveries really highlight the power of combining true basic research with applications. And together, you know, Omar's brilliant work in really developing new covalent chemistry, like the most basic you could imagine, which led to the discovery of new, you know, brand new types of materials with incredible amounts of surface area, which is very fundamental. And then the applications of these materials are immense, you know, the carbon capture, hydrogen and methane storage, as Chancellor Lyons said, catalysts, just really without, you know, it's just the limit of our imagination that limits what could be done with these materials to help solve the problems of today and really impact billions of people around the world. So just incredible chemistry, and I'll also add that Professor Yaghi doesn't end with groundbreaking science of both basic and practical nature, but he combines this with the desire to mentor and outreach also on a global scale. He's established, you know, an entire institute in order to really, you know, bring up the best and the brightest and provide opportunities across the entire world. So we are just so proud and so excited and thrilled by this our newest Nobel laureate, and we really give our heartfelt congratulations to you on these well-deserved accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kara Mankey. I am a science writer at UC Berkeley, and I will be moderating the Q&A portion of the press conference. We ask that you please keep yourself muted, and if you have a question, leave your name and affiliation in the chat. And I will ask you to unmute yourself and ask your question. And let me know if you'd prefer that I ask. You can also just put your question in the chat and I will ask that. And like we said, I will be periodically adding the link to our press release and a folder with photos and video into the chat as well. So let me know if you need that. So Omar, to get us started, I know it's been an exciting morning for you. Could you tell us how you found out about the news and a little bit about what your morning's been like?
Yeah, so I was traveling from San Francisco to Brussels through Frankfurt, and as I landed in Frankfurt and got up to get my luggage so that I can deplane, I get a call. I can feel my phone buzzing, which is, you know, normally people send me text, so I'm not used to the phone ringing. But so I looked at it and said Sweden right there. And so I answered, and the secretary of the Nobel Committee and the Swedish Academy of Sciences was on the line informing me of the fact that they have decided to award me the Nobel Prize. So that was really exciting. I talked to a couple of the committee members as well. They're all wishing me the best, but it was absolutely thrilling. You cannot prepare for a moment like that. So I was just surprised and delighted by the news. And since then, my phone hasn't stopped ringing, buzzing, receiving emails, hundreds and hundreds of emails. I have no idea how I'm going to respond to all of them, but a lot of well-wishers, friends and family and colleagues from all around the world. So yeah, it's it's an amazing time. It's indescribable. The feeling is indescribable, but it's absolutely thrilling. I wanted to just thank Chancellor Lyons and Dean Barringer for their thoughtful, kind remarks and their warm congratulations. And I just want to say that I am really a product of the public school system in the US. All my degrees have come from public schools, and I have always enjoyed attending as a student and working as a professor in these universities, especially UC Berkeley, where the faculty are given full freedom to explore, fail, and succeed, and still we are being supported by our colleagues and our administrators. So I just want to thank you both, but also really just say that this recognition is really a testament of the power of the public school system in the US that takes people like me with major disadvantaged background, refugee background, and allow you to work hard and distinguish yourself. And the system allows you to do that at these public schools. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. And I think every scientist dreams of getting that call from Sweden. So that's wonderful. Could you describe in your own words the breakthrough that you're being recognized for today?
Yeah, we discovered a way of taking inorganic building blocks and organic building blocks. These are the constituents of nature, and stitching them together to make frameworks. And these frameworks encompass space within which one can trap gases such as water or carbon dioxide or hydrogen. Even they could be designed to seek out contaminants in water like PFAS or organic contaminants from water or contaminants from the atmosphere. The amazing thing is that you can also modify their pores so that you can catalyze reactions, and in some applications where we take poisonous molecules and make them harmless molecules through their passing through the pores of these materials. I think the thing that the committee described in their announcement was that in a gram of a MOF, of a metal organic framework, that gram, which is no larger than a sugar cube, encompasses a space as large as a football field. So you can imagine how powerful these materials are in terms of compacting gases without having to use lots of energy, such as high pressure or low temperature. So I would say that that's at the core of our citation, the development of metal organic frameworks.
Thank you. First question from David Castelvecchi at Nature. David, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. First of all, on behalf of all of us at Springer Nature, congratulations on today's award, Professor Yagi. There had been a lot of applications mentioned in the press conference this morning, and we ourselves have covered, beginnings of attempts to capture CO2 with MOFs. But would you say that there are applications where the MOFs have, quote unquote, lived to their hype, where they are already beginning to replace other maybe competing techniques for a certain application?
Well, yeah, thank you for the question. I would say the power of MOFs is that they opened new avenues of applications that other materials could not do. For example, a MOF that the Nobel Committee cited is CAF20. That MOF is being scaled up to hundreds of tons by BASF and is actually commercialized in Canada. It's already in cement plants, taking up CO2 from flue gas of cement plants before it reaches the atmosphere. So that's I don't see that as a hype. That is a implementation of science, basic science, all the way to benefiting benefiting society. So that MOF is now in three, my understanding is that it's in three plants, the cement plant. Now, cement plants are some of the heaviest polluting in terms of CO2 emission of any industry. And so this is really an amazing applications. And soon we will see products already taking up water from air to make drinking water using most efficient, energy efficient devices. So there are other applications that already reached the market, such as trapping of nerve gas and converting it into harmless products by a startup in Chicago, and I could mention others. So I think the fact that these materials are so vast, the number is so vast, and the applications are so vast, sometimes we forget that the basic things are already there, and the applications are already commercialized, some of them, yeah, as I mentioned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Megha Satyarayana from Scientific American. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Good morning. This is Megha Satyarayana. I am with Scientific American, and the cement plant example is what I was actually thinking of with my question. When used in such a large scale, how do you prevent MOFs from becoming part of the pollution problem themselves when one of the lauded goals of this technology is to actually reduce pollution and reduce greenhouse gases?
Good question. I think that the chemistry of MOFs is enabling us to not just solve an existing societal problems, but that they don't become a problem in themselves, because we make them so robust. And the committee cited this in their speech this morning, that they have to function for years in a power plant so that you don't have to replenish them every time. Well, that's saving a lot of our resources. But also, the thing that I want to really say is that we have developed methods where at the end of the lifetime of the MOF, one can separate the metal from the organics using strong acid and then reassemble those using zero discharge methods and using water as a solvent. So the very chemistry that we discovered is not just about making the framework, which is exciting, and their applications, but also it allows this variability and this flexibility allows us to regenerate the material with zero discharge of any contaminants. So I'm very, very happy, actually, you asked that question, because not many have been discussing this out there. Yeah.
Thank you. Jonathan Allen, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question? Jonathan's asked me to read the question. What do you think the biggest impacts of MOFs might be, and how might they look different in 30 to 50 years?
I think one of the things that will stay past my life is the fact that if you can think it, you can make it. Okay, if you can think up a material that you want, whether you're a startup or a professor or an emerging student trying to learn chemistry, you can actually go to the lab and make it. And it sounds trivial, but this is not so easy in chemistry. Sometimes you think up molecules, materials, and you go to the lab and you find, well, it doesn't really work the way you thought it would work. But here, with very few attempts, and now with the aid of AI, if you can think it, you can make it. And that is really powerful. And needless to say, you're building these things from nature's building blocks, minerals and organics. And so I would say that that's quite powerful. I think the future, given the variability and this precision with which these materials can be designed, I think you're going to make MOFs that operate like DNA, operate like biological systems, where a sequence of molecules arranged in a specific spatial orientation within the MOF, code for specific properties. Okay, and I think that that's the future.
Thank you. I'm curious also, thinking towards the future, what role do you think AI and data science will play in sort of helping to design new chemistry and new applications for MOFs?
Well, for example, we have already demonstrated in our lab as part of a new institute, AI for Materials Institute, BIDMAP, Baker Institute of Digital Materials for the Planet, BIDMAP. BIDMAP, our work there, we've shown that, okay, it's easy to make a MOF, right? But it's not so easy to make it in crystalline form, in that perfect form, like a jewel, right? Which sometimes you do need to identify the constituents of the material on the atomic and molecular level and understand how it's put together, right? That takes time. That takes a lot of trial and error. Every chemist, you know, if you ask them what is the most difficult thing to do, they'll tell you, we spend 80% of our time trying to crystallize our compounds. Well, AI is helping us speed up that process. Things that MOFs that would take a year or 2 years to crystallize, we're doing that within a course of weeks, and now even days, okay, using LLMs and using AI tools. So AI, I think, is the future. I think it's intricately connected with chemistry, with MOF chemistry as well. And it's a huge direction that will enable us to ask deeper questions, make faster discoveries, and reach society much faster than we've ever done.
Thank you. Question from Bob Service. Can you share your thoughts on the state of American science and the country's willingness to be open to people and scientists from around the world?
Yeah, I mean, science is a language that allows all people to talk to each other. That's one of the few languages where we all understand chemical formulas, whether we're Japanese, Australians, Koreans, Chinese, or American. A chemical formula is universal, and the lingo that goes with that is also universal. So science allows us to talk to each other, and I don't think you can stop that. I think that that's something that will continue to be important, and enlightened societies will encourage it. So I am optimistic that we will continue to exchange throughout history scholars from even countries that you would think were adversarial. Scholars can be exchanged and learn from other scholars in other countries, and this is how knowledge was spread from one region of the globe to other regions of the globe, is through exchange of scholars and through the mentoring system that we do so well in the US, mentoring students. So, Bob, I'm not sure if I answered fully your question. I'd love, if I didn't, I'd love a follow-up.
Thank you. We have another question also about how you've benefited from federal grants and funding in your work.
Well, my very first grant was an NSF grant. Okay, and I tried. It was very competitive. It was very hard to get. I didn't get it until the third trial. Okay, so but I did get it in my second year as an assistant professor, as an independent researcher, and it gave me an opportunity to do more, to do this research, to actually get the first success that led to the Nobel Prize. That was an NSF, a National Science Foundation grant. Then this was followed by a DOE grant on using these materials for separation. And these agencies go through, we went through a rigorous refereeing process. And if you didn't get almost perfect scores. You really had to get perfect score to be funded. And so this allowed us to, challenged us to not just do rigorous science, but also creative science. And they were absolutely key in enabling me to go off in my own direction, away from whatever was happening in chemistry in the mainstream. I wanted to do something completely different. And these grants allowed me to do it. So I really encourage us as a society to apportion some of our scientific funding to allow people to think outside the box and to encourage that. So federal grants played a major role in the initial discoveries that led to this amazing field.
Thank you. I think just a couple more questions. First, you talked a little bit about public universities and just public schools in general. Could you talk a little bit more about the role that UC Berkeley played in your work?
Well, UC Berkeley, I call it the nirvana of science. I mean, when I was on the market as a young scholar looking for an independent position, for a professor position, I wanted to come to Berkeley. I interviewed at Berkeley, but at the time, I don't think I did a good job at the interview, okay, when I was young. Okay, I was very young at the time. But since then, my aspiration was to get to Berkeley, because Berkeley was the place, the dream place for a serious scientist to be. And it proved to be the case. You have incredible colleagues, incredible facilities, and as I said, incredible administrators that leave us to our own devices to discover and fail and succeed and build fields without interfering in the inner working of the research. So I still think after now almost 12 years being at Berkeley that it's a great place, and I don't see myself going anywhere else because I have arrived at my ideal place.
Thank you. We're getting a few more questions in the chat. First off, Maggie Donaldson with AFP, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, hi, and congratulations. I just wonder if you could expand a little bit on your upbringing and your experience as an immigrant to the United States and sort of what this recognition means to you within that context.